The sound it made was nothing. A small magnetic click, the same sound a hotel room makes when you've got the wrong key, and then the little light above the card reader went red. That was all. I was 12 feet away at the access control checkpoint, signing in for the 0600 shift, and I watched it happen. She swiped the card a second time, same result. The Marine at the desk looked up at her, already knowing the answer before she asked. "Card's been deactivated, ma'am." She didn't argue. She nodded once, the way a person does when they're absorbing information that doesn't quite fit into a known category, and she stepped away from the reader and stood beside the checkpoint table with her small field notebook open in one hand and a pen in the other. She looked like someone waiting for a bus. She had a green coffee cup balanced on the notebook cover, and she hadn't spilled a drop. Master Gunnery Sergeant Daw came through the planning room door 40 seconds later. He had 27 years on, and moved like it, shoulders first, the kind of man who had never in his life been uncertain about the next 10 feet of ground. I had been in his talk for 6 days, and I had not seen him hesitate at anything. The staff gave him a foot of room in every direction, without thinking about it. A reflex. The way good people move around someone who has earned their respect through years of being right. He did not hesitate now. "You're the liaison office's errand runner," he said, loud enough that the 7 people on the floor behind him could hear it without trying. "I don't need an errand runner at my planning table. I need people who can run a fire stack, and that's not you." She looked at him for a moment without expression. "I understand," she said. "Card stays deactivated. You want in here, you go through your chain, not mine." "Yes, Gunnery Sergeant." He went back inside. The door closed. I watched her write something in the notebook, cap the pen, and walk away toward the liaison trailers at the far end of the compound. I remember thinking she handled it better than most would have. I also remember thinking Daw was probably right. He usually was. That was 0611 on the second day of the Combined Arms Validation exercise at FOB Kellen South. I've since learned what her card actually unlocked, and what deactivating it actually cost us, and I've spent a fair amount of time since then thinking about that small magnetic click. Her name on the roster was Gunnery Sergeant Elaine Carver. She was attached to the exercise as a fires planning advisor from the Marine Corps Forces Special Operations Command, and her official billet in the exercise packet listed her as a liaison coordination specialist. That is what Daw read when he ran the access review. That is what I would have read too. Neither of us looked further. The thing we didn't look at was a classification supplement 11 pages deep in her personnel file, routed through a different command channel and attached to the exercise packet as an addendum. That supplement listed her actual qualifications. It listed 12 confirmed combat jtac calls, 7 under direct fire. It listed a Marine Raider fires planning certification that fewer than 60 people in the entire service held at the time. And at the bottom of the 3rd page, in a line so brief it was easy to miss, it noted that she had authored the MOGTAV Close Fire Integration Protocol, currently in use by all 6 Marine divisions, including the deconfliction authorization codes for suppression sectors at exercises classified above the standard training threshold. The exercise at Kellen South was classified above the standard training threshold. The Eastern Suppression Sector ran from Grid 447 to Grid 521, a 6-kilometer corridor that covered the approach lanes for the 2 mechanized platoons in the night maneuver phase. The deconfliction system for that sector required a 12-digit authorization code to open any fire mission into the corridor. The codes rotated every 4 hours, on a schedule only the authoring planner could set. The authoring planner was Elaine Carver. Daw did not know this, because the supplement was in a channel he hadn't read. I didn't know it, because I was 26 years old, and assumed if something mattered that much, a senior man would have surfaced it. The fires officer on the exercise staff didn't know it, because the packet had been routed to his predecessor, and the handoff was incomplete. Nobody in the TOC at Kellen South knew it. We found out at 2141, when the eastern sector collapsed. The night maneuver phase had been running for 3 hours. 2nd Platoon was 1,100 meters inside the corridor, moving through a dry creek drainage, when the simulated observation post at Grid 479 went dark, which in exercise terms meant an enemy element had flanked the defilade, and both platoons were now in a contested approach lane, with CAS stack building overhead, and no clean firing solution on the ground. The exercise control cell had already begun building the stack. 4 aircraft, 2 ingress corridors, an overlapping firing fan that required Eastern Sector deconfliction before any of it was usable. Every minute the stack sat unauthorized was a minute the platoon stayed pinned. The senior planner, Major Reinhold, called for Eastern Sector deconfliction, and the fire's NCO read him the authorization screen. Authorization unavailable. Access code not current. Contact coordinating authority. Reinhold looked at the screen for a long moment. Get me the coordinating authority. Working on it, sir. That was me. I had the exercise directory, and I was searching it, and what I found after about 90 seconds of confusion was a supplemental contact roster attached to a page I hadn't opened before. On it, beside the Eastern Sector coordination line, was a radio frequency and a name. Her name. I looked at that page for probably 4 seconds before I picked up the handset for the exercise control net and keyed it. Kellen Control. This is Kellen FireNet. I need an alternate contact for Eastern Sector deconfliction. Looking for Gunnery Sergeant Carver. 30 seconds of static. FireNet. This is Kellen Control. I'll try to raise her. Stand by. Reinhold was watching me across the console without saying anything. He was a patient man. I was grateful for that. 2 minutes passed. Then the control net came alive with a different voice. Kellen FireNet. This is Iron Chalk. Send your traffic. I looked at the handset. I looked at Reinhold. He nodded. Iron Chalk, this is Kellen FireNet. We have an Eastern Sector authorization failure. 2 elements in contested corridor. CAS stack building. 4 minutes to stacking limit. We need deconfliction authorization for the full corridor. Grid 447 to 521. A brief pause. Not long enough to mean hesitation. Kellen FireNet, stand by for verification sequence. I'm going to need your stack call signs and a current grid on each element. You'll read me those, and I'll authorize each sector in sequence. Understood? Iron Chalk, understood. She was at a folding table, somewhere in the dark outside the planning wire, running on a small battery-powered radio, and whatever she had in that field notebook. I found out later she'd been at that table since 1400, working on her own notes, because she'd had nowhere else to go after Daw deactivated the card. She had the protocol memorized. Not in the approximate way someone remembers a process they've done before, but in the precise way an engineer knows a structure they designed. Every sequence, every conditional, every exception. First element, stack call sign. Gunfighter 6 actual. Grid. I read it. Sector open. Gunfighter 6. Second element. We went through it like that. She'd ask, I'd answer. She'd authorize, and I'd read the confirmation back to Reinhold, who was updating the fire stack in real time. The other staff in the TOC had gone quiet. People were doing their jobs, but they were listening, the way soldiers listen when something important is happening, and they're not sure yet what it is. One of the fire sergeants had pulled his headset down around his neck so he could hear the control net clearly. I noticed that. The third sector authorization took 90 seconds because there was an overlap condition between the mechanized element's route and the CAS ingress angle. She caught it before I flagged it and told me exactly what to do. Resequence the ingress axis, request a modified bearing from the CAS stack, confirm the lead aircraft's updated vector before authorizing. She said it the way someone says a thing they have said before, calmly and without padding, and I did exactly what she told me. The ingress bearing came back from the CAS lead. I read it to her. Good. Authorize Sector 3. Moving to 4. Sectors 4 and 5 cleared quickly. Clean geometry, no overlaps. 6 had a timing conflict with a simulated mortar fire mission already logged in the northern edge of the corridor, and she identified it from her memory of the exercise fire plan, which she was apparently carrying in its entirety in the notebook on the table in front of her. She resolved it in 40 seconds by bracketing the timing sequence and walking me through a modified authorization that kept both fire missions clear of each other. I read her confirmation back 3 times to make sure I had it right. She waited, patient, while I checked my notation. You have it right, she said. Go ahead and transmit. 7 sectors, 41 minutes. She never rushed, never repeated herself, never asked me to confirm a number twice, unless I'd read it wrong the first time. By the time we reached Sector 7, the contested approach lane was fully deconflicted. The cast stack had clean ingress, and Reinhold was watching his plot as second platoon began to move. I heard Reinhold exhale once, quietly, the kind of exhale that a man doesn't know he's been holding back. Iron chalk, all 7 sectors authorized, corridor clear, elements moving, thank you. Understood, Kellen Firenet, monitoring. She stayed on the net for another 14 minutes, just there, listening. When it was clear both platoons were clean and the stack was disbanding, she keyed once more. Kellen Firenet, I'm going to sign off. Good work tonight. I didn't know what to say, so I said what seemed correct. Thank you, Iron Chalk. The net went quiet. Reinhold was already writing the deconfliction log. He wrote it by hand, the way the exercise protocol required, and he wrote it in full, each sector, each authorization, each timestamp, and beside each entry the authorizing call sign. 7 times he wrote Iron Chalk. When he was done, he set the log on the console, looked at it for a moment, and then he looked at me. Who deactivated her card, he said. Master Gunnery Sergeant Daw, sir. Reinhold didn't say anything else. He picked up the log, folded it once, and set it on the edge of the console. Find him. I found Daw at the planning room door, being told by the duty NCO what had happened in the last 41 minutes. His face was doing something I hadn't seen it do before. Not anger. Something quieter and harder to name. He took the log from me without speaking. He walked to the south checkpoint, past the dead card reader, through the exterior door, and out into the compound. The folding table was 40 yards from the wire, under a single portable work light. She was there, the radio on the table beside her notebook, making what looked like notes in the same small, precise handwriting I'd seen her using all week. She looked up when Daw came close but didn't stand. I stopped at the wire. I don't know why I followed. I wasn't ordered to, but I watched. Daw held the log in both hands and stood at the edge of the worklight. He began to read. He went through the whole thing, all 7 entries, and I watched his face move through something slow and internal as he read. When he reached the last entry, he stopped and stood there without moving for a moment that felt longer than it probably was. Then he reached up and removed his cover. He held it at his chest, the way a man holds a cover in a military cemetery. He did not speak. She did not speak. He set the deconfliction log on the folding table in front of her, very carefully, the way you set something down when you want it to stay. She looked at it. She did not pick it up. He put his cover back on, turned, and walked back toward the TOC. I was standing 20 yards away in the dark, and I don't think either of them knew I was there. That was fine. Some things don't need a witness to be real. I picked up the deconfliction log from the table after she left that night. She hadn't touched it. I don't have a clean reason for why I took it, except that something about leaving it on a folding table in the dark felt wrong. It's in my kit bag now, between my firing data notebook and the laminated sector grid I've carried since Kellen South. Every time I hand a new planner a fire stack, before I explain the sequence, I tell them one thing. Read the supplement. Not the first page. The supplement. Most of them look at me like they know what I mean. Some of them actually do.